This is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. And it's a new season!
Hooray!
We're in the Globe, we're outside,
Hooray!
having a few beers.
Hooray!
And we've had a wicked summer. My name's Billy Grant, I'm sitting here outside the Globe. It's almost like it never went away. I mean, the booze are here, I've got a pint in front of me. I've got a bit of a low alcohol thing going on as well, you know, because I'm trying to mix it up a little bit as I get into the season very, very slowly. And I've got my chums sitting around the table. You've got Ali Mullalley to the left of me. Ali, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Bill. I'm having a great summer and enjoying it, looking forward to Sunday.
We're all looking forward to Sunday, but just harking back, you said you had a great summer. What did you get up to?
I've just got back from Costa Rica, which was fantastic, and spent a couple of days at the Euros in Germany, and I found it quite funny how the rest of the world freaked out about Ivan Toney's penalty technique, but...
They did, actually. They were getting really confused. It's really funny how you got this scenario again. Just harking ourselves back to the Euros, which was great until the very last game, but we won't talk about that. But Ivan Toney, who appeared for about 32 seconds, right? But he made his appearance and he really did make a mark at that Euros, because it's really funny. I was there for the whole month, you know, and characters, they pretend that they know who Ivan Toney is. But then afterwards they kind of go, oh my God, have you seen that Ivan Toney? What a guy. Look at him, man. He's a baller. And they just kept going on and on. I'm thinking, you knew nothing about him before that. You were all making decisions about him that you knew nothing about him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when he came on in, was it the last 16 or the quarter-final? I can't remember which. The last 16 game, wasn't it? And he made such an impact, sort of like blocked off the defender to allow space for the first, and then assisted Kane for the second. But then everybody just went mental over the penalty, didn't they? The no-look penalty, and we were all going, yeah, right, okay, fine. We see that all the time. No
and we're going to talk about Ivan Toney a little bit later, because also there's obviously the possibility that he may leave, or maybe he might not leave, you know. But I think just coming back to the Euros, and I'm like you, I'm gutted. I was there for like the whole time. I had a great time out there as well. But the thing that I was probably most gutted about is that he wasn't given the opportunity that I thought that he should have. And I know this is probably old talk and this is summer talk, but I think this quite affects us now, because we're talking about Brentford, we're talking about this new season, we're talking about players coming and going. And if he'd even been given, you know, twice as much time as he's got now, that would probably made a difference to what Brentford is happening at Brentford at the moment, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I mean, I think he certainly made an impact. I think people became more aware of what he could do. But yeah, I mean, I think he would have needed more time. I think if the final had gone to extra time, he might have got on. But you know, who knows? Did it go to extra time? I can't remember. I've wiped it from my memory now. It didn't it? If it had gone to extra time, I think he probably would have got on at some stage. Could have made an impact again. Yeah, I think he deserved more minutes. But you know, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's always difficult to make those decisions.
But listen, other than that, you've had a great summer. I'm going to move on to Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Lewis Holmes in the house here. Sherlock, how are you?
Sherlock Lewis Holmes is very well, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I had a lovely summer. I naffed off down to the West Country for a time. I watched very little of the Ivan Toney meme Euros, and I'm very relaxed and I'm ready to go for the new season.
Excellent. So Sherlock's in the house, and we'll be hearing more from Sherlock, and also his articles that he writes. Very many of them for the season as well. Very good articles as well, though. Thank you very much, Sherlock, for your input there as well. We got Laney in the place. Laney, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting used to this new mic system. Yeah,
we've got
multiple mics.
We got a new bit of kit. I got very excited. Got a new bit of kit. I'll be testing it out all day today. And like, there's more than one mic in the house, and we're not talking about mic. That's right.
Yeah. It looks like we're doing karaoke in the corner, but it's nice bit of kit, Bill. I had a really good summer. I kind of worked a bit, and I've been to Greece and I've been to Spain. Travelling and working, and it's like full on, very, very busy time for me. So, but really looking forward to Sunday. It's good. It's almost like this is a carbon copy of the end of season pod, isn't it? You know, it was exactly the same people at the end of season, and now we're at the end of the closed season one. So yeah, it's nice to be in your company again.
Indeed, and we got Matt the Allard in the place. How are you?
I'm good, Bill. Yeah, it's summer. I haven't really been away. I had a few days in Italy. We watched the Euros there, watched Italy v Albania in a sort of Italian beer tent on the lake. And when Albania scored early, it became very clear quickly that it was a tent mostly full of Albanians, and it was a good time. We had a good time, and then I love the Olympics as well. So I haven't really stopped watching television. My eyes are quite square. but it's been a good summer for sport.
It's definitely been a mad summer for sport as well. And myself, as you know, I mean, I went to the Euros. I was there for pretty much the month. Germany is such a brilliant place. It really is. It's a good country. Great people, they understand football, and it's a great place to have a tournament. Even though I did put England down to win the tournament, I was a little bit kind of sort of struggling towards the back end of it, having been pretty much out of the country for a whole month. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because generally, you know, you're out the tournament in the quarters, maybe in the 16s. If you get the semis, that's good. But being out there for the whole lot, that is some proper going. So it was great. Met some great people out there. There was no trouble, except for there was one little bit of trouble. Thanks for everyone checking out the Pride of West London podcast, which we did a podcast from every single game, including the semi, except for after the semi, because I was so excited about that one when we played Holland that I forgot to put it up, and I was too late by the time I remembered to put it up, so we left it. But there was a little bit of trouble before the Holland game by some Dutch fans. It had to be said, caught us completely out of the blue. So like I said to you, don't believe what you read. It was a bit of a shame, because the Dutch fans in general had no interest in going to the game whatsoever. There was 150,000 of them, and literally none of them were interested, even when they had tickets. So do you want a ticket? No interest. They just wanted to go and party. But there was a little moody final bunch, unfortunately. That just spoiled the thing, but never mind about that. But other than that, great place, Germany. Then I spent a week in Ireland as well. So I went to Ireland, so it's almost like a juxtaposition between the two. In Ireland, no internet, no nothing, campsite, kids just running around in their Gaelic football tops and stuff like that. It was back to the country, and it was good. So I'm kind of I've been sort of cleansed of the Brentfordness, but now I have to get myself back into it. So it was very, very good seeing here in the Globe with the characters here, getting back into Brentfordness as it goes. So anyway, on the show, loads and loads and loads to talk about. We've got obviously characters around the table here in the Globe as well. We've also got Neil from the Anfield Wrap. We've got a little piece because Neil's done a little pod that's up now on Pride of West London, talking about one of our new signings, Fabio Cavallo as well. So he's talking about him because he played for Liverpool, and he knows everything about Cavallo. So we're going to have a little clip from that interview, which is up live now on prideofwest.london. Also, later on, we're playing Crystal Palace, and we've got Lee Holmes from the Palace podcast 5-year plan, who's going to give us a bit of a lowdown on Palace. So check that out later in the podcast as well. What else is happening? I'll tell you something, like I said to you, I was out of Brentford mode, but I flipped myself into Brentford mode only yesterday. I went down to the ground and they had a little gathering. There's a little scheme that's happening at the moment now, a little charity. It's called the Heart of West London, which you may not have heard about, but you should definitely know about this. Now, the Heart of West London is a partnership between Brentford FC Community Sports Trust, the Royal Brompton and Harefield Hospitals charity, Cardiac Risk in the Young, which is a charity to do with heart, people having heart problems, a problem with the heart, and Resuscitation Council UK and AKA Day. And they basically have got together to, in effect, what they're trying to do is they're trying to highlight, the issues of people having heart problems and trying to get people to test themselves more, and also trying to get them to do things like, to understand how to do, to deal with cardiac arrest and stuff like that. It's been going for 2 to 2 to 3 years. This little collective, and it has come born out of Brentford FC, out of the fact that, as we've talked about quite a lot, one of our really good friends, Rob Rowan, who died from a heart problem as well, very, very suddenly and very, very young. He was the technical director of Brentford, and after that, Brentford decided just to embark on actually, highlighting the problems with heart issues, especially heart issues with people in the young, and see what they can do. So this is a sort of collaboration of organisations to try and help with this issue there as well. So they had a bit of a celebration night at the ground the other night, which I went down to. It was really good to see a load of faces down there. Peter Gillen was down there, Marcus Gale was down there, Nicky Raj, people from the club, players, some women, Brentford FC players as well. So like I said to you, it was really, really good to hear all these people down there on at the ground as well. But what we're going to have as well, though, is what was really nice is that Suzanne Rowan, who is Rob Rowan's wife, who, like I said to you, who was sadly taken away from us very, very early. She was there that night, actually, and she made a little speech, and she also spoke to us, about her fondness for Brentford and how Brentford had really backed her after her husband has died, and she's got involved in this whole charity. So listen, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little listen to what Susan had to say at the night of the Heart of West London get-together at the ground. So I'm here with Rob Rowan's wife, Susan Rowan, and like I said to you, it's been a wicked evening here. The Heart of West London celebration evening is as well, and like I said to you, lots of really great people that have been involved in this charity, involved in raising the profile of this really great cause. part of West London. Susan, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming along. It really means a lot.
Obviously, you've been on a real journey. You've been on a heartbreak journey, but also what it's done is it's driven you to get involved in this charity, this these series of events, which is helping to save people's lives. Just talk to me about that whole thing, because it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's something obviously you don't really plan or think about when these things happen, but I got a lovely card from Andy Scott, who was obviously a good friend of Robert's, who is a patron of Cry after Robert's passing. I hadn't heard about Cry before, cardiac risk in the young. He reached out, told me a little about his condition, about the charity that he works for, and then through connections that I had with Brentford, through Phil, Giles and Nitty, we started to do some work with Cry, which has been amazing, and it gave me a really good purpose kind of going forward for the first kind of initial stages, and then over time I think Brentford were really keen to kind of keep supporting and do a lot of stuff in Robert's memory, and then other cardiac organisations were in contact for various reasons, and we realised that we could probably bring everything together and make this Heart of West London partnership, which happened about 2.5 years ago. Again, the club have made it a lot easier for us because they've given us this platform and support, and along with a lot of fans that have done a lot to raise awareness and funds to help us do these things.
As you can tell, you're not a local, okay? You're from way up north. You're from Scotland, as was Rob, but you've moved down here, and even after Rob's passing as well, you've made a decision to kind of basically make yourself part of the Brentford community. Why is that?
I think just the club, including its fans, made it really easy for me. Of course, initially it was such a terrible time to go through. Didn't really know what to do. I came down here because of Robert's job, but being at Griffin Park initially really helped me kind of process my grief and be close to Robert. I met a lot of amazing people, and the club have really looked after myself and Robert's family and our friends as well. There's been so much support from fans, a lot of fundraising and a lot of things to kind of look forward to and progress, that I'm just really proud to be part of it. I really feel like this is a proper community family club.
So there you go, Suzanne Rowan. And like I said, she's talking about Brentford, talking about, her love for the club and love for the area and what we've done. So listen, if you want to get involved, like I said to you, just go to brentfordfc.com/heart and you can have all the information you know. But anyway, listen, we need to move on. We need to talk more about what's been going on in the summer with Brentford and what's going to be happening in the future, because we got a game on Sunday against Crystal Palace. We're going to go away, have a little drink. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the transfer window. So the summer transfer window, the transfer window is still open. Listen, my thoughts about the transfer window. 2 months is far too long because there's too much shenanigans, too much nonsense. People start messing you around. Certain owners decide to get tucked right in when they find out Brentford are after players and they can't usurp our players and stuff like that. Make it a week, as far as I'm concerned. Get it over and done with a week and we don't have to worry about it. But it's not like that at the moment now, so we do have to worry about it. And the fact is that the window opened and lots of people were very, very unhappy in the Brentford community that there was no activity they felt happening in the window. But the fact is, from what we can, and we do our due diligence, we know there is a lot of activity taking place behind the scenes. Just because you don't get a delivery from day one doesn't mean that things aren't happening, but there's a lot of activity that's happening at the moment now. But it's a movable feast, and unfortunately we are dealing with the fact that the window is 2 months old, and if it was a week old then everyone would sort themselves out very quickly. But listen, we thought we were going to come into this podcast with no information whatsoever, but luckily at the weekend there was a signing that came out the blue.
Hooray!
Yeah, no one knew about it at all. And this is, again, we've talked about this before, this is how it has to work with Brentford. When everyone's talking about it, it doesn't happen because somebody else comes in and hijacks it more often than not, because we're still not in the position to offer somebody £200,000 a week and he'll go, I can't turn that away. So we need to do it quickly. So out of the blue, we were actually working on another player, which not surprisingly, just hasn't come through, but under the radar, we were dealing with a player, Carvalho, who used to play for Fulham, but now played for Liverpool. And we did the transfer, the deal was done, and within a couple of days, bang, he was a Brentford player. And it's got quite a lot of people excited around the table, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has got people really excited, and you're right about the length of the transfer window. I mean, the transfer window is exciting, or it's boring, depending on what your team does in the window. But I find it just so effing frustrating, and it's mostly other people's reactions to it. And there seems to be a lot of bedwetting that's been going on in the Brentford world, of people just, as you say, Bill, assuming nothing's going on. Like all our DOFs and all our staff are just sat on the beach, like not interested. Of course there's people in for our players. Of course we're looking at options, and we are, as you say, in a situation where we're still punching above our weight, and some of the players that we have gone for over the last 2 years don't really want to come to us because we don't offer European football. We're trying to get the kind of player that pushes us up. So we need more class, we need more quality, and we don't want to waste our money. We don't want to fall into the same trap that so many clubs that have been up for 3 or 4 years do, and they just spend, and they make bad signings, and they end up with very heavy squads. And there's a lot of players they're carrying that they just get no value out of. So of course we need a bit more depth to our squad. We found that last year, but I think it's been really frustrating just hearing the negativity from around. Obviously that's been compounded by Thiago getting injured, which it does seem like we're jinxed at times, but it is really positive, I think, just to see some real class coming into the team now, into the squad now, and we've still got 2 or 3 weeks to go, and from what I'm hearing, there's more to come.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about Cavallo, because in his interview as well, he seems actually really grounded. We're going to go into Cavallo in a little bit, but just as history, he was at Fulham. He was part of their academy, and then he came through their academy, played for Fulham in the Championship. As they say to us, smashed up the Championship. He was a really, really quite renowned player at that time. He was a Fulham poster boy. They absolutely loved him. He got a move that went to Liverpool. Like I said to you, we'll be talking about it a little bit later, went to Liverpool, and he thought he's going to step up there. Now, obviously, things didn't quite happen there, but what was really nice when he spoke in his interview, his very first interview for Brentford, he talked about, when he heard Thomas Frank speak for the very first time, and he was just hooked in by the fact that Thomas Frank was really enthusiastic about him, knew about how he played and how he can make a difference, his strengths and weaknesses, all stuff like that as well. He also talked about Europe, what I'm saying, and he talked about, the fact that, the club's got really high ambitions in playing in Europe, and it's almost like he's at the stage of his career where he's thinking, I don't need to play at Europe now. What I need to do is I need to get some game time and realise my position before I actually going to talk about playing in Europe. Whereas a lot of players go, I want to play in Europe, and they'll play for probably a pretty average team, but they'll play in the Europa Conference League or the Europa League, and they might go out in the first or the second round or anything like that. Or they might play for a team that's in the Champions League but has to play in the qualifiers, and they'll disappear after one game. And he's like thinking, look, this team obviously has got ambitions. So if we go to Europe, we'll be playing at such and such a level. But he'd rather join us now to help us to get to that rather than that. And I think we've lucked out a way in a little bit of him having a little bit of a dip in his career, because he's now willing to go, listen, mate. And he's only 21 years old as well. So he's had that dip probably at the right time for us, because we still signing him young. He's got a 5-year plus 1, I think, so a 6-year contract or something like ridiculous. So he's tied in. So he's a real typical Brentford player that we can mould in the way that we want him to, probably like the same way that we did Ollie Watkins and other players like that. The Allard.
Yeah, I think his career trajectory has been quite interesting. I know Fulham loved him. He didn't appear to love Fulham enough to actually sign a contract to play, an elongated contract to get so that somebody would have to pay a transfer fee for him. It ended up with, Liverpool basically paying some compensation. Liverpool have done all right out of the deal, really, because they've had a player for 3 years, and I think they probably made about 20 million on it, because they didn't pay a transfer fee for him in the first place. So
for 5 million they paid,
yeah, 5 million, and then we bought him for what have we
20
bought him for? 20. Okay, so 50 million, then with add-ons maybe a bit more. So everyone's done okay out of it, and it's a for me it looks like a really good signing. I saw him I noticed him last year playing for Hull in towards the end of the season. They played against Leeds and they played against Ipswich, and he stood out, I thought, in both games as a really exciting young talent. So it's unusual, isn't it, for us to buy a player from someone like Liverpool, but it's exciting stuff.
And talking about Liverpool, we're going to go over to the Anfield Wrap. Neil from the Anfield Wrap knows everything about Carvalho, and he's going to tell us his thoughts. We have a little bit of his thoughts on Carvalho. There's a longer podcast out on Pride of West London. Check that out at the moment now if you want to now. But Neil is going to give us his little bit of thoughts on Carvalho.
For me, what he is he is an attacking midfielder, and he's got obviously good touch and good technique.
And tell me, just sorry, pre-season, because I know you went over to America for pre-season.
Yeah,
who did you play and where did you go to?
Real Betis, Arsenal and Manchester United. And over there in the States, he was pretty close to Liverpool's standout player. Jota, I think, ultimately takes that crown along with Gerald Quansah. But then Carvalho, was very, very good. It's just difficult to envisage precisely where he plays for us. I don't think Slot, not dissimilar to Klopp, has got an interest in playing him as a sort of a number 10-ish style player. I don't think at no point does he get that opportunity. He played him off the left slot in pre-season, but he scores goals. And I think the thing he is, more than anything, if you ask me what his sort of outstanding attribute is from all the time I've seen him at Liverpool, I think he's a finisher. I think he's someone who sticks the ball in the back of the net. I think it's something. He's calm around goal, in front of goal. He's got a massive injury time winner for us against Newcastle at the start of the 2022-2023 season. When he came off the bench, he scored away at Manchester City to make the game 1-1. I think I'm right in saying. In the same season, in the League Cup, granted, but it was still a game against Manchester City, and it was a lovely finish drilled into the corner. He doesn't, for us, whenever I've seen him, I always feel as though he's not impacting games enough. And I think he needs a fair bit of coaching, but get him around the penalty area and give him opportunities. And I think he's about as good as you could hope for in front of goal. And that's why I think it's a really interesting signing for this Brentford side. I can see exactly how Frank will be thinking first and foremost if he's a coachable player, and Frank's a really good coach.
So there you go. That's Neil from the Anfield Wrap. He thinks he's a brilliant player. He thinks he's great for Brentford, and those are the kind of things that you really want to hear. Exciting times, I think, for Brentford with this, because it's a good move, but it's a bit of a curveball. And with all the lack of transfer activity happening over the holiday, everyone's been talking about all these different positions and who should be playing here and doing this and that. But I don't think that Carvalho kind of came into the conversations at all. So we're sort of sitting around there beforehand, trying to work out where he's going to play, what he's going to be doing, and all that kind of stuff. Lady,
I mean, there's still big elephants in the room, isn't there? I mean, we're still, we're waiting for news of a left back, and we're kind of excited, hugely, that we're going to strengthen our defence. Because from my perspective, I'm looking at our squad now, and I'm hugely excited by our attacking options. Carvalho has added to that, so we kind of almost got an embarrassment of riches up front, especially with Tony not having gone anywhere as yet, and assuming that he may not. As I said, Thiago's Crocs, but even without him, we've got attacking options coming out of our ears. We'll talk about potential of Wissa moving on in a minute as well. But based on what we've got going into Sunday's first fixture, it's really incredible. We just haven't got a left back.
And Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast the other week with Nick Harris, who knows a lot about PSR and football finance, talking about left backs, which made me actually look at this ongoing, we haven't got a backup to Rico situation in a completely different way. And he was saying that left backs, because there's so few genuinely left-footed, good left backs, you come across one and the price is doubled immediately because they're a good left back. So I think a lot of it is because there are not, as soon as you find a left back, they're horribly overpriced. And I think when you look at it from that way, it's sort of like, I think that's part of the reason we're having a difficulty signing a genuinely good left back as a backup. Young good English left backs are come at a premium at the moment.
And we saw that in the Euros, didn't we? I mean, there wasn't a left back in the Euro squad until Shaw got himself fit. It is a real problem. So this whole idea that we should have 2 left backs is maybe I think this is exactly why we signed Hickey, is that we signed a player that could play left back.
100%.
Where we got caught out is with Hickey getting injured, obviously. But it remains a worry, as Laney says, for the beginning of the season. It's what we watched for, I don't know, 6 months of last season.
Yeah, I don't echo what everyone else says really, but I just don't think we're going to get a backup left back. Like it's not with Rico coming back in September. I think it's a case of make do. We cannot stockpile players like Chelsea do, and so I think we will just kind of fudge it, because it's tough to find a backup who's willing to sit there and get splinters.
It would be quite funny if 3 games into the season we switched to 3-5-2 and Thomas is saying to Carvalho, "Have you ever played left back, left wing back, mate? Do you think?"
Yeah, and just quickly, just talking about Carvalho as well. I just want to talk about Carvalho and his positions, because we're sitting down here and we're trying to work out where's Carvalho going to play, because he's come and he's an attacking midfielder. Okay, we play in a particular way. Interestingly, when he played for Liverpool, as Neil explained earlier as well, I think he explained that he played on the left wing as well. So he's playing on the left wing, which is a Wisa position, which I thought, at the time when he said that, I thought, that's quite interesting. And that dropped before we heard about the Wisa news, which we'll talk about a little bit later, where there's sniffings around, Wolverhampton Wanderers seem to be very interested in Wisa. And we thought, okay, so Carvalho plays on the left wing. But I thought that he was more of a number 10, an attacking midfielder. But we don't play an attacking midfielder. So the question I was saying is that, does he go into the 2 in midfield? But if he does that, then does he take the place of Jensen? There's so many questions revolving around how he plays. And also the other thing is, as Neil said, he's one of those players who is a front foot player. So if you're doing all right, put Carvalho on the side. But if you want to dig out a win, he ain't the type of player that you're going to have in your side at this moment in time, which basically, again, sort of limits the positions that you'll play in.
You could make an argument that we play, well, we have played a similar system to Liverpool with the 4-3-3, and it's funny that Liverpool can't fit him into the team, and then we've signed him. So I think this is all really valid and good stuff to talk about. He could play as a left winger. I think if Rico's fit, because then he can come inside and Rico can come round the outside of him. He could potentially play. So if you think of a midfield 3, and I think this is what you're saying, is that you have a holding midfield and you have 2 in front, and you're suggesting he could play in there, and he could potentially play in there. But I don't see him and Jensen playing in there, say, with Norgard holding. That seems quite. It seems very exciting, and I'm sure it'll be great fun to watch. But it does sort of, how that would work into it defensively. I don't know. And I know Thomas seemed to. In his press interview, he seems to understand about him being a 10, and I think he talks about playing that he can fit into a 4-2-3-1 as a 10, but we haven't played a 4-2-3-1 in I don't know how many years, not since Warburton, as far as I know, as far as I can remember. But it doesn't mean that we can't try that. If you have the right personnel, sometimes it almost picks itself.
Well, this is what I was about to say, because part of the, some people are turning around and go, "Oh, Brentford, this and the Premier League," but the fact is that we're playing the type of football we play because the personnel that we have, and because of the finance that we've got, the money that we've got, which limits you in the way that you play. And we've done very well to survive, because we've learned how to adapt, whereas other teams like Burnley didn't. They just went, "Oh, let's just play Man City. Oh no, play Man City football." Bang, back they go again. But eventually, 2, 3 years, 4 years in, as you get the money and the personnel comes in, you get the personnel that can make you. Brighton start to do that as well, and make you more adaptable to a different style of football. And I think is the question now: are we getting to the stage where we are probably being able to adapt, and we might actually find ourselves flipping into a change of formation?
We could do exactly that. Yeah, that could happen, and there may be that you look at your personnel and you think, actually, is there a different system we can play? To be honest, I'm not that worried about Carvalho fitting into a 4-3-3. I think he'd fit in perfect. From what I've seen of him, I think he'd be okay on the left, playing wide on the left, coming inside. I think he does have. He's quick. He's pacey as far as I can remember. So I think in terms of playing counter-attacking football, in terms of pressing, I think he'll be able to do that job. I think if you think about, we've signed 10s before, like we signed Marcondes, and we really struggled. We never really worked out where to play Marcondes. I think Carvalho's different to that. I think he does have more I think he's a quicker player. He scurries about, if you know what I mean.
I think he certainly gives us more options, different options, and he can help us evolve our style of play in many ways, and how we set up differently for different oppositions. I think we have to also remember that we've actually probably lost almost a whole season of our evolution, because last year was a write-off. Thomas was like just fielding a team as best he could. I don't think we really, because we've lost Tony for the first chunk of it as well, I don't think he really was able to sort of like sit down and say, right, this is how I want my team to play this year. I think he was probably looking most weeks going, this is how I'd like our team to cope tomorrow. And I think for me it's fascinating that hopefully we can get most of our players fit, and some more quality and class within the squad, and then that allows Thomas really to kind of hopefully put a more of a stamp of Brentford's intent on this division again.
Listen, okay, I mean, we've talked about Cavallo, and we're going to hopefully see him on Sunday. Whether or not he's going to start the game or whether or not he's going to be on the bench, that is a big question. We think that he'll probably be on the bench. What I did like about what he was saying in his interview, though, he says, I want to score on Sunday, which to me he's thinking I'm already going to be playing on Sunday, whether or not it's coming off the bench and scoring or starting as well. So I like that type of attitude from him.
I think there's one advantage is that he's had a proper pre-season. He's played for Liverpool a good lot in pre-season. Previously, I think we've signed players that haven't had decent pre-seasons, and they've been on the way out at clubs and stuff like that, and they haven't really. But I think because Liverpool have had the all their players coming back from the Euros, etc., he's had plenty of opportunity, so he should be close to being match fit, rather than we've got to put him for a pre-season, if you know what I mean.
And he's had a pre-season as well, and what I'd say as well, and Neil talked about that, I talked about it with Neil, he has a pre-season which has actually made Liverpool fans upset that he's leaving. Now, if the fact you've got Liverpool fans upset, I think is absolutely brilliant. The fact that they're moaning, thinking, we thought he's going to be the man for us this season, I think that's just great for us. It shows that we've stepped up a level, but also, what is even better, the Fulham fans crying, so upset that we've taken this star boy and we've taken him to Brentford. And now is the stage now they're actually dissing him and saying, oh, he's rubbish anyway. We always knew he was going to be rubbish, but that's Fulham for you. But anyway, we'll move on. Ali.
I was just going to say, and also the thing that he's got is that he's come up through English football. He's used to English football. He's used to the Premier League. We're not signing a player who's never played in English football, or has never played in the Premier League, and it's going to take a few months to adapt to that. So I think that's a definite bonus as well.
Talking about other players as well, we've got to talk about Igor Thiago. I mean, just briefly, he's signed for Brentford. We signed him in January, so we thought let's get our business done early. They got it done very, very early, like you know what I'm saying. And then we thought let's just ship him in at the right time. We shipped him in. He did a pre-season. I saw him play at AFC Wimbledon. He started off slightly slowly, but then he came into the game. He looked really good. Scored 2 good goals, and then he came off at half time. And I remember sort of speaking to a few people in the area that I was in. I said, "Oh, he's looking quite good. Good that he's had his half and he's come off at half time." And I think everyone in that room at the time, lots of Brentford officials and stuff like that, probably thought, yes, he's come off at half time because he's just got his half over and done with. But little do we know, he came off injured probably, and he's been injured ever since, and he's not probably going to be out till New Year. Now, Igor Thiago, how big a miss is that going to be, the Allard?
I think it was a bit of a shock, really, wasn't it? I mean, obviously a load of people went, oh yeah, well, that's what happens, and kind of I don't know if they enjoy it. Do they enjoy it? It seems like they enjoy it. Yeah, he's going to be a big miss. I mean, you just want to get him up and running, don't you, as quickly as possible. I think it's caused some complications with what happens with Tony. I think it makes it more likely Tony hangs around. I would have thought we would have been absolutely 100% on moving him on. Now there's a bit more sense in keeping him turning around, keep him hanging around. So I think it does has all that sort of impact, but it's not ideal, because you would think that those, the months that he's now going to be injured are the months that he gets himself going, and he'll probably have to come in to the team, in sort of January time, and I suppose that if he's fresh, that might be, a good thing, but it's not a good thing, is it? Let's be brutally honest.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but I do think that if he comes in January, it might be one of those, like, it's a new signing kind of things, and he might if we're in trouble in January, which I don't think we will be, but if we are, it might be the sort of fresh injection that really helps. I mean, he looks really impressive. He's a beast. Yeah. So that sort of thing coming along in January, if you are in the muck, could be very, very useful. So I'm a bit sanguine about this one. I'm not too worried. I think whenever he turns up, it will be a massive injection into the team.
Well, it's not a good thing, is it? It's not a good thing that we spent 30 million quid on and burst the bank on buying the replacement for Ivan, and he's done his ligament in his knee and he needs an op and he's out till January. I think Thomas Frank would have liked him to be part of his plans from day one. It's a statement signing. We didn't buy him not to use him. I was told off by Banana on the Griffin grapevine saying he went, oh you're getting upset because how can we miss a player that's never kicked a ball for us? But I was like, really? Okay. We haven't. It's not like he's a KLP, or it's not like he's a Konak, or it's not like he's a bit. With all due respect to those players, a bit part player that we're taking a bit of a punt on. He's the real deal. He's a finished article. He's the next Ivan Toney. He's the player that we've brought in to build our team around as our number 9 for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Him not being around isn't great. But, obviously all the time Ivan's here, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I just pretty much echo what Dave said there. I'll say I was at the Wimbledon game as well, and I was actually quite impressed by him that first half. He's sort of like, he holds the ball up, which if Ivan is a player that holds the ball up for us at the moment. So I think in that respect, he holds the ball up really well, and he was almost the perfect replacement. When you were watching him thinking, yeah, he's the, like you said, Dave, he's the real deal. And I think it's just really disappointing that he's immediately got injured. And it did almost feel very Brentford at this point in time, didn't it? Because everybody just seems to get injured, and it's just incredible bad luck. But it just does feel that it needs to end at some point. This bad run of bad luck with injuries has got to end at some point. Hopefully now. And the
one thing I will say as well, just quickly, we've come to the Allard in a minute, is the one thing that surprised me is I thought he was actually quite fast.
Yes, he was. He was quite, wasn't he?
Yeah, for quite a sort of big player, and I'm not trying to stereotype sort of people. Oh, you're big, so you can't be fast, because obviously we've just seen the Olympics and we've seen people. But as footballers who are sort of strikers and meant to be typical strikers, and we've seen Ivan Toney. Like if you compare him to Ivan Toney, he's faster than Ivan Toney.
Yeah, 100%. Because Ivan's a big bloke, isn't he? I mean, and he's not quick. That's not his strength. Whereas Thiago has got the similar qualities to Ivan in that he holds the ball up well. I think he's going to be good in the air, but he's quick and he's a very intelligent footballer as well. From what I saw in that 45 minutes, I think he's going to be a great signing in inverted commas in January.
I think the most interesting thing in January is that there's two ways it could go. He could be coming into an incredibly pressurised environment with a lot of people absolutely desperate, and I mean fans, and obviously the Brentford management team desperate, and he needs to, he'll have, and he needs to hit the ground running, or we may have a very settled team. Everything might be going very swimmingly, and he might have to fight his way into the team.
Indeed. So listen, we talk about Igor. He's still around. He's going to be chilling out and getting himself back into form for the new year. There's a few other signings that have been flying around, which we're going to talk about the ones that got away. I think there's 2 signings that got away. One of them is Kajusta. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name, but let's say it's Kajusta as well, he was on the edge of signing for Brentford, as far as I know. So much so that I did a Guardian article in the Observer, so in the Observer newspaper last week as well. If you see, I did the fan review for that as well for Brentford, and I normally don't like doing this, but I thought the deal was so done, I actually put it inside that article as well. And then he's come out, and all of a sudden the deal just fell on its arse, and he hasn't signed for us as well. And then also we've had a little bit earlier in the summer when I was over in Germany, and I was laughing so much when I saw this. Archie Gray looked like we were going to whip him from under the noses of Leeds United and take him into Griffin Park, which absolutely got the Leeds fans foaming at the mouth. They just thought, how far have we fallen that our star player, who is the son of one of the Leeds legends, is going to join Brentford. They were so upset. So we had those 2 transfers that did not quite get over the line. Laney, what do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, them Leeds fans losing the plot over Gray coming to Brentford was brilliant. I mean, it was only 24 hours, and it was a fleeting wonder that the Leeds Red Bulls were they weren't happy, and they were almost like relieved in the end that he went to Tottenham, because Tottenham was an okay team for him to go to. Brentford after Pontus was too much. It's been a lot of rumours. It's been a lot of kind of big club links with Brentford, but it's only really this last week or so that they seem to have be coming a little bit more nearer fruition. The Kajista one, I think we all thought that was going to come over. He'd come over and done his medical, hadn't he? And then it just didn't happen. It looks like Ipswich are in for him at the moment. Everton have been looking at him. There's Adley from AC Milan, is another one that there's rumours about. But
that's further down the line, and we don't normally like to talk about those ones because
there's 2 or 3 big name agents, isn't there, on Twitter that they always seem to be there or thereabouts, or they don't actually seem to tweet stuff that there isn't actually genuine interest for. But our name is it's been linked with obviously the lad at Burnley now, and
O'Shea.
O'Shea, he scored the other night against Luton on Monday night in Burnley's first game. He looks to have some real pedigree. He looks to be quick. He looks to be intelligent. The reports that coming in from Turf Moor and our chums at the Burnley podcast, they all say really good things about him. It's whether the valuations meet. So we'll see what happens.
And just making a quick point about Kajusta, so from what we've seen, that's what's gone out there. It seems like, but we're not saying, it maybe allegedly, that he did not quite pass the medical. Possibly, maybe the reason why he didn't come to Brentford. Other teams seem to be willing to take a risk on that and might sign him, maybe on loan, maybe not with a view to join. Whereas we were going to sign him with a view for him to join at the end of it. We had to basically nail our flag to the mast as such. That's an interesting thing, because the fact is, I think it goes to show you what everyone's moaning about and there's nothing happening. I think we have got so many things going on, and we're so confident with what we've got going on out there. We're looking at him, and whatever player, they almost have to reach a certain mark for us to sign them. And if it's not right, we'll move on. And I think that's what's happened with that. With the Archie Gray thing, from what I'm speaking to from people in the Leeds quarter, even though we haven't got that many people in the Leeds quarter anymore, because they're not very happy with us at all. But the people that I've spoken to up there as well, we were very, very close to signing him. I know a lot of people are sort of saying it was a smokescreen. That's rubbish. But when the word got out, and then the furore, I haven't used that word for a while, furore kicked off in Leeds about him going to Brentford. Leeds backed off, allowed Tottenham to come in and put some money in, and then boom, next minute he's gone off to Leeds. But that's one of the scenarios. What you say to you is that, unfortunately for Brentford, we need to kind of get the deals done quickly and out there, and we don't need Tom, Dick and Harry talking about it in all sorts of quarters, because what that does, it just alerts people, gets the social media, gets the whole vibes going, and it could just completely and utterly change the deal. So that's a shame. On the O'Shea deal, who's a defender from Burnley as well, again, the word is out there on this one as well, that it looks like that there's a bit of difference in the valuation, how much we think he's worth and how much he is actually worth. So Burnley, lower your price, send him over to us. It's the best thing to do, which is all good. Anyone else was it want to chat? No.
McTominay was a tenuous one.
Ali wants to talk about Scott McTominay.
Yes,
you brought it up. Nobody else wanted to bring him up. Absolutely no one wanted to bring him up, but you wanted to bring him up because he broke your heart, didn't he, at Man United?
Oh God, yes. But I'd probably forgive him if he came here and did the same to Liverpool or Man United or Leeds in the Cup.
So you want him to come?
Yeah, score against Leeds in the Cup.
Just for that, yeah.
Last minute, yeah.
No, I had this on Facebook last night. He's massively overrated. He'd misshape our midfield, and he's not worth the aggro, and I think it's tenuous anyway. So no thank you to Scott McTominay.
Wages, isn't it?
Wages, yeah.
So listen, that's at the moment now. Like I said to you, there may be loads of other things flying around on the transfer front, but we try not to get involved in all this frivolous rumours and all that kind of stuff. We leave that up to all sorts of characters. We're trying to get a little bit more, get due diligence in there. Then when we find out things look like they're going to be happening, then we have a little good chat about them as well.
2.5 weeks to go. I mean, there is a long time, and we know that the last few days, the last few hours. I mean, the one that we've spoken about on our WhatsApp group is if Reguilon doesn't get another team and very last knock-ins at the end of the window, and we still would like left back cover, is he too expensive for that to be an option for us?
I think he is. If Rico's coming back fit, it doesn't feel to me like it's something we would do. I say this. I think there's obviously the goalkeeper, but then there's 3 positions on the pitch: left back, right back, centre forward. If you can't offer the option to play in another position and you're one of those players, I'm not sure we're going to sign you if we've already got a left back coming back. It just isn't what we do. If Rico had a setback and was out for another 4 months, then yeah, by all means, I think it's something we'll do. But I just don't. I don't see us signing a player that will then have a bundle with Rico as to who plays, because essentially neither of them can play in another position. It's not very Brentfordy, I don't think.
The stars would align if he hasn't reached a conclusion with another club. And he would like to tide himself over until January's transfer window, and we get cover. But I mean, we know this hypothetics, and But what I'm basically saying is 2.5 weeks to go, and I'm expecting quite a lot of business to be done.
Yeah, I think there's a PSR there's a PSR thing going on as well. I think clubs are trying to balance the books. I think we may be. I mean, in terms of outgoings, you talk about. Do we need to sell somebody in this window? I'm not sure. I don't know enough about our position, and if we don't sell Tony, does that mean we have to push somebody else on instead?
Okay, so listen, we talked about the incomings and potential incomings and a few of the incomings that we missed. Outgoings. So I mean, there's been quite a few outgoings as well, but we'll talk about sort of not disrespecting the other players that have gone out, but let's just talk about recently sort of outgoings or potential outgoings at the moment now, because I think that is what is important. Yoane Wissa, who came back in the second half of last season as quite an influential player. Beforehand, he was one of those players you're like, is he a bit of a sort of kind of like, a super sub? Do you start him and then take him off? Do you bring him on at 60 minutes, But it's interesting, if you talk to fans from other clubs, they go, oh my God, that Wissa that you've got, he's a bad boy, oh, he's wicked, They don't necessarily see the full 90 minutes, they just see, the highlights of games and, maybe the Sky games and everything like that. And I'm not denying that he's been a great player for us, and he's infectious, and his vibe and his celebrations, all that, we love it. But there's, I'd say rumour now, because it looks like it's been confirmed that Wolverhampton Wanderers have made a formal request to find out if Yoane Wissa is available. Now, what I will say, I'm going to say that we haven't done the due diligence on this, because sometimes you ain't going to get answers around this time, because you ain't going to get the answers because they need to do the business. But my thing is that if somebody has made a formal request about Yoane Wissa, there's no smoke without fire. Would the flags have gone out to say maybe this player is available from the club through the agent, to say, look, if X, Y, and Z happen, maybe this player is available, so that all the sort of kind of cogs are put into place. Sherlock.
I'm a big fan of alliteration, and Wolves whip away Wissa would really please me, but I can't see us selling, a striker. I know we don't play him as a striker through the middle, but I can't see us selling a striker type player with Thiago out injured and not knowing what's happening with Tony to, let's be honest, a direct rival in the kind of middle top half of the table. I'm not they can be interested, but I'm not sure that we'll sell.
But what I'm going to say to you is that, again, we know this, that we have got irons in the fire, so you don't know what's going to happen. We're obviously looking, and we're confident of bringing in players. Whether or not it happens or not, again, sometimes it's out of our hands, but at the end of the day, surely you've got to have a Wissa conversation to say, well, if we bring in X and Y, then Wissa can go. So obviously these conversations are being had.
I think if there's a £30 million number attached to Wolves' interest, then obviously we're going to allow talks to happen. We've got a lot of options on the left, and it depends how we set ourselves up. I'm thinking Sharda's going to be on the left, but with our incomings, there's more left-sided options. We've got KLP, the enigma that is KLP. Is he going to get any minutes on the left-hand side? You hope this is the season that he comes good. So Wissa might be thinking, actually, I might be on the bench. I might want to go.
I'm just interesting that you saying the 30 million, because the figure that's being reported at the moment is 25 million, including add-ons. So I don't think if that's the price, we're going to sell him at that price, especially with the uncertainty around Tony. And if it does happen, it's going to be at the end of the window for substantially more than that.
I don't really see anything happening on Wissa unless we've got a clear idea on what's happening with Tony. I think to be honest, it's as simple as if Tony stays, you probably could cash in on Wissa. If Tony goes and Wissa goes, I mean, I know you talk about irons in the fire, but it doesn't mean you're actually going to get any of them over the line. I just think that leaves us ridiculously short.
But you wouldn't sell him until you get somebody in, and you'd know. Yeah. So it's all about juggling transactions.
So unusually for us, this could go down to the last hours of the transfer window, and I think that's mostly because of where we are with Tony. And I would think that anybody that wants to sign Tony is probably just sitting there waiting to put a late offer in and maybe trying to get it over the line.
I mean, it's certainly a heart and head dilemma here, isn't there? You know, we've spoken with our heads there. You know, this is the business side of do we keep him or go in. My heart side, I'd be very sad to see Wissa go. If he does go, the memories of some of his goals are exceptional. You know, just off the top of my head, the overhead kick against Chelsea, I'd always love him for that last minute winner at West Ham. He scored some absolute beauties. Luton away last season was just delicious, you know. So I think it's actually easy for us to actually not acknowledge how good he is as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is a great player. I think he is. Having said that, I think he's very much a moments player. So he has great moments in a game where he'll score a great goal, or he doesn't score tap-ins generally, does he? No, he has great moments in games. I don't think across a full 90 minutes you can. I think the best thing you can say about Wissa is you suddenly go, you're just about to turn to somebody and say, Wissa's done nothing this game. Well, you've just said Wissa's done nothing this game, and then he pops up with an overhead bicycle kick. So, and I do feel that if everybody is fully fit, I'm not sure he's in the starting 11.
Sometimes this is a division where you just need those moments of absolute class. It's not necessarily about 90 minutes. You know, yes, that helps, but sometimes you just need that ability, that brilliance to be able to produce a moment of you know, like he did against Newcastle in the last game. You know, and I thought in the pre-season he's looked like really fast and really sharp. So yeah, as I said, you know, if he does go for the right money and it's 30 million-ish, I can see that makes financial sense. And as Matt said, that we might be in a situation where we have to bring some money in. You know, that is essential with running a club like ours.
Exactly that. I mean, if you've been banking on the Tony money, and then you're looking at a situation where Tony goes for free in the summer, and you're sailing a bit close to PSR, you get offered 30 million, 35 million for Wissa, you might have to take it.
Although you only get a couple of points here and there if you fail PSR anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Unless you're Everton.
That's right. So listen, I mean, we talked about Tony quite a lot. We have to talk about him again because, of course, he's meant to be set to leave this summer. He obviously wants to move on, you know, even though he's, you know, respect Brentford and they've done what they've had to do, but he sets his heights higher. We've talked a little bit earlier about the fact that England probably could have played him a little bit more, which had helped us out, but unfortunately that isn't the case. So at the moment now we've got teams who may or may not be interested, who are just sitting, looking, waiting, probably actually waiting for the first game of the season to see what he does. If he scores a hat-trick first game of the season, bang, there you go. All of a sudden Tony's price will go shooting right up, and you know that he's going to be absolutely gagging for it. He'll be wanting to take every penalty, every call. He'll be everywhere, Tony, because he'll really be wanting to show the world what he can do now. But Ivan Toney, there's a few rumours, and again, sometimes, like I said, we don't talk about some of these rumours, but we might as well. This one's out there. That Saudi are looking at Ivan Toney. There's a rumour that previously they came in for him and he said, nah, no way, he wasn't even interested beforehand. But, you know, to me, this could be true because they have got a lot of money out there. They know he's decent. They probably think he's attainable as well. He's a player that could come to them because he plays for Brentford. And so you throw him, give him a decent wage, throw Brentford some decent money, and Brentford will go, here we go. So there's the rumours that Ivan Toney has been attracting some interest from a Saudi Arabian club. Now, Ali, you think there's absolutely no way in the world that you'll go there, isn't it?
I didn't say absolutely no way. I think you're misquoting me slightly there. I think
no, I'm not.
Yes, you are. I think it's very unlikely. I think he has...
She said, I'll bet you 50 quid. That's what she said.
But I don't honour my bets, you know that. I think it's very unlikely because I think he has fought very, very hard to get into that England squad. And well done on him for getting in there. And let's not forget that we had a Brentford player representing England in a tournament because of Ivan Toney. Let's not forget that. And he was a Brentford player, whatever happens. And I think he's fought very, very hard to get into that England squad. And I don't think he's going to give up that spot lightly. And I think if he goes to Saudi, he will be risking that spot because there are other very good centre forwards. Obviously, Watkins is there already in the squad. Solanke going to Tottenham makes him much more high profile. He wasn't far off the squad, I wouldn't have thought anyway. So I think it's unlikely at this stage.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to pull you up on that, but all I'm going to say to you is that it's easy to say it's unlikely, but
very unlikely then.
Very unlikely. You should just say no. He's not going to go because you're on the no side.
You can't ever say anything with certainty in football, can you?
Yes, you can. Yeah,
It's only a podcast.
That's right.
I still think
he's on wedding vows.
I would say 95% he's not going, but I think there's still a 5% chance he takes the money.
Right, okay, but if he takes, then if he goes, then you say, "But I said the 5% was there, lady."
Actually, I've jumped in ahead of Sherlock, but I think we've kind of said. I think the consensus is that Ivan does what Ivan wants, and if Ivan wants to go for and earn £750 million a year,
but that's the point. I think he wants his place in the England squad more.
Well, we'll just see.
But we're an argument. There's an argument to say that he would not miss the England squad place, isn't it, the Allard?
Yeah, there were. I mean, Kante came back into the French team, and he's been playing in Saudi Arabia. Neves is in Saudi Arabia. He played for Portugal. I mean, I'm not saying there's any, but we haven't got a player like Ivan Toney playing there, so does it rule him out? Is he in Lee Carsley's plans anyway? Might Lee Carsley go a different way? I don't know. I'm not sure that is the be all and end all for Ivan if he hasn't got other options.
And if he's 700, and I think the big question is 750 grand a week. Would Ivan Toney go? Tell you what, 29 years old. This is big money for me. I'm just going to go and take it.
If I were him, I'd be seriously tempted. And
of course he's going to be tempted.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
It would also be a massive coup, wouldn't it, for the league? So financially, I don't know how strict they are on the financial rules out there, but other people would potentially like to see Ivan playing in Saudi Arabia.
It's a straight choice for the player between untold riches, guaranteed untold riches, and potential future glory. It's not a choice I'd like to make. No. Personally, I think Man United are going to come in with some silly offer in the last week of the transfer window anyway, and they'll end up there, and I've said that all summer.
I don't normally laugh at the lazy Ivan Toney betting jokes anymore, but someone did make me laugh and said if Toney does go to Saudi, he's going to need a very good VPN.
Yeah. There we go, and we're laughing at the moment now because you see Middlesbrough have just gone ahead against Leeds, and listen, Leeds are in the Championship, Middlesbrough in the Championship. Why are we worried about these teams? But it does make us a little bit chuckle, doesn't it? The Allard, you got a final thing to say? No,
not really.
No.
I think it'll come out in the wash. I mean, but that may unusually for us be closer to the transfer deadline day than it normally is.
I think when you're talking the sums that top class footballers get, there's not, in terms of your everyday life, in terms of being set for life, there's not a lot of difference between getting 200 grand at Man United and getting 750 grand in Saudi. You're still going to have all the money you're ever going to need. Your kids are still going to have all the money they're ever going to need. So it depends whether or not future glory is what he wants.
I always have a slightly different view of that because I think of the agent, and it does make a difference to the agent. Yeah. I've talked about this before. I think that there's a documentary about Metallica, and they're sitting in a room, and the only person that wants them not to split up is their manager. The rest of the band are done, but their manager knows that there's a lot of people out of a job if they split up, and I'm talking about, it isn't all about the players and what the players are earning. There's a lot of other people earning off the players, and they may have different opinions onto whether they should take big pays or not.
Okay, so listen, we've still got 2 and a bit weeks to go. Transfer window, there's going to be plenty more talk on transfers. Trust me, irons and fires. Can't say any more than that at the moment now, but it could be quite exciting. All we need is a couple more players, to be quite honest with you. So let's see how that pans out. Anyway, we're going to go away because we haven't had a drink for a while. We're going to go away, have a little drink.
Alexa.
We're going to come back. Alexa play Joy Division. These are falling apart again. We're going to go away. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about the women's team. So as we said, season starts on Sunday. for Brentford men's team, but season starts on Sunday also for Brentford's women's team as well. They've got their first game of the season at home to Leatherhead. Unfortunately, there's a clash with the Brentford men's team, which means that some people may have to make a choice between the women's team and the men's team. But it's not necessarily all about Sunday. It's about the whole season. It's the fact that the women's team are back. They're playing lots of games. They just missed out on promotion to the league above them last season as well. So they put that behind them and they're going full guns blazing for this next season. Ali, I know that you were at a lot of games, big women's team fan as well. A little bit gutted how it worked out in the end last season, but lots of bright hopes for the future, innit?
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing. We needed to win our last game of the season against London Eastport Benfica, who were the league leaders. And of course they came and they set up not to lose a game because they only needed a point. And as we said, we would have done exactly the same in their position. So it was really disappointing because we literally just missed out on a point. I think ultimately the slow start that we had to the season probably cost us promotion. We did start off quite slowly. And also I think actually going to the final and winning 2 cups, we had such a backlog of games towards the end of the season. That probably didn't help either. But, you know, the season ended positively from the point of view we'd already won 1 trophy. Then we went, after the disappointment of losing out on promotion, the following week the girls picked themselves up, won another trophy, another cup competition, the league trophy. So that's fantastic. So they've got 2 trophies in the cabinet. So it was definitely on an upward curve. This season is looking very positive. I mean, everybody was worried that prolific Chloe Logie, with her 50-plus goals, was going to leave, and she's decided to stay, which is brilliant news for us. We've made some really good signings. We've made a couple of good signings. Ashley Cheatley, particularly, who's also a forward. Carly's been playing Logie and Cheatley almost as a 2, which has worked really well, actually. They both scored in the game on Sunday. And actually, because Logie has sometimes got a bit isolated, so it's good for her to have somebody else, to have that option, to have somebody else playing up front. Lucy Potter's come in. She looks good. She's a good winger. Rebecca Edwards has come back from having a baby, and she's another one who scored on Sunday. So I think it all looks really positive. I think we've strengthened the squad really well. We've hung on to our key players. Nobody's really gone anywhere, and I think we're looking really good for this season. And it's difficult to get promoted because there is only one team that goes up, and so that does make it hard. You've got to hit the ground running, and you've got to keep that momentum all the way through the season. But I think they're in for a really good season once again.
And the Allard, I mean, you went and watched the women's team play, a few times last season as well, and you know what's what and what's happening down there. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think Ali summed it up in the last 30 seconds there, in that you've got a 12-team league. Only one team goes up. If you don't hit the ground running at the beginning of the season, it is very, very difficult to catch up. So you've got 22 games, and you don't have a lot of room for error. The pressure is on right from game one. It's really, really important that they get results right from the beginning of the season, because last season it was catch up, essentially, and that's what they need to avoid this season. Okay,
so talking about the women's team, I mean, like I said earlier this week, I was at the Heart of West London get-together at the ground, and I had a little catch-up with 2 of the women's team. We had Mollie Holmes, who's the captain of the women's team, and also Regan Graver as well, who's the vice-captain of the women's team. And we had a little chat with them about this forthcoming season.
So football is back. Not only the Premier League is back at the weekend, but we've also got Women's League football back. And I've got, sitting here in front of me, I've got Mollie Holmes and Regan Graver from the Brentford women's team, who went so close to going up last season. But also they won the cup, so actually they're a bit happy about all that as well. So listen, girls, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Really good.
Good. Listen. We'll be talking, off mic here as well. We're talking about pre-season. I mean, like I said to you now, I've set up a girls' women's club and football club, and there's no pre-season going. They're literally on the beach at the moment now, but there's no beach action going with you, is there?
No, we're working hard, trying to make sure we get to that top spot and make sure we get that promotion. So we're out here working hard. So yeah.
Listen, I spoke to you, Mollie, back into last season. Great little chat we had down in Bedfont. It was coming up to the tail end of the season. You had a slow start, but you built it up nicely, and we were going to the game. We had the big game against Benfica, which was going to be a crux match as to whether or not you're going to be going up or not last season. It was really close, but no cigar. I'm going to have to say to you that, but how gutting was that for you to sort of miss out the last minute?
Yeah, I think it's even. It's gotten. It was literally a point. Things could have gone differently, and you don't even worry about that kind of 0-0 draw. But yeah, like you say, we had the cups. I think that gave us a little bit of positivity, a little bit a great way to end the season. But yeah, we were devastated at that not being able to get promoted.
But I mean, on a positive, we're coming back next season or this season now, and listen, you know exactly what the objective is now. How is this season going to be any different from last season? I mean, I know you signed a few players, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We signed a few girls from leagues above, some in the same league as us currently, but it's exciting bringing all these new people in who are just bringing a different level, a different standard. It's looking very promising this season. I think, hopefully we can push it all the way to the end.
And like I said, you've got new players. You've got your first game, which is on Sunday, the same day as the Palace game as well, which is a little bit of a shame, but there's not a lot that we can do about that as well. Some people choose between one and the other, but for you, your focus is strictly on the Sunday game. So who you got on Sunday?
We've got Leatherhead. I'm saying that with great confidence. I'm sure we've got Leatherhead. Yeah, we're at home at Bedfont, so if you don't fancy watching the men, get yourselves down there.
What's the kick-off time?
3 o'clock kick-off, as per, so get yourself down there, start cheering all the girls on.
And Leatherhead, I mean, again, last season, same league. I mean, you played them last season. How'd you get on?
We won, which is good, and I think we scored a fair few goals, but first we saw kind of last year we didn't start great, so I think it's really important that we start really well this season, set kind of a precedent, set a marker, that we're not here to just drop off, we're there to go and get that title.
Okay, and just talking about the team and the development, I mean, I talked about this with Mollie last year, but the team has come on, I'd say, leaps and bounds in probably the last 2 or 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, obviously, the objectives that you have are to go to the very, very top, but that's going to take stages. But at the moment now, where do you think that you're in your development stage, even compared to last year?
I think being supported by Brentford is incredible. The opportunities we get and not the pressure, but the focus that they put on us to do well and to go and get that promotion is amazing. We feel it from the start to the end of the season, how much they support us, and I think, there is that little bit of pressure to go out there and do well, but hopefully this season we can do it.
And listen, finally, like I said to you, big game at the weekend, but in general, listen, every week you're playing all over London, okay, and you need the support, don't you?
Yeah, we definitely do. It makes such a difference. We've got a few regulars that come down that we adore. And so it'd be nice to get a few more people there, cheer us on, make sure we quieten down those away fans especially.
So how can they get hold of you? How can they see you? How can they find out what's going down?
Yeah, of course. So our fixtures are posted on the Brentford website, so you can always get it off there. If not, our Instagram is the place to go. We put them up monthly and weekly in terms of where to be and where all our games are there. So follow it on there.
Come on, you bees.
Come on, you bees.
Come on, you bees.
So there you go. So like I said, don't forget, check out the women's team. You can get all the information you need to on the Brentford FC site as well, or go and also check out Her Game 2 Brentford on the social media platforms. Brentford FC Women as well on the social media sites. You get it.
Brentford FC on Twitter.
That's right, Brentford FC. Just search out Brentford FC Women. Just Google it, and you'll find it all over the place. Get your information. Go and see them. It's some great football out there as well, and it's getting better and better. But anyway, okay, big game Saturday. We're going away. Going to have a drink, going to come back, and we're going to talk about Palace. Sunday, Crystal Palace coming out of West London. We haven't beaten Palace in all the time that we played them. And in fact, Brentford have never played Palace in a competitive game in the whole of my lifetime until we got to the Premier League this time. So as far as I'm concerned, we've never beaten Palace. So if there's anything that we need to do, we need to beat Palace this weekend. So like I said to you, they're coming down, and listen, they had a bit of a resurrection towards the back end of the season. They had a bit of a stinker under old Roy. They stuck with Roy. They've said, oh no, Roy, it's all over for you, Roy. They got rid of Roy. They got in a new manager, and he's given them a proper right good lease of life, and towards the back end of the season they were one of the form teams. So we know a little bit about Palace, but we need to know a little bit more. So we got Lee Holmes. There's another Holmes. There's been 3 Holmes on this podcast. This is the Holmes of the Holmes. This is as well. So Lee Holmes from the 5-Year Plan podcast, a very famous, very big, very reputed podcast as well. He's going to give us the lowdown on Palace.
Hi guys, this is Lee from Crystal Palace podcast 5-year plan to hopefully give you a bit of insight into Crystal Palace ahead of the game on Sunday. So yeah, summarising last season feels a bit overly complicated really. Obviously the easy way to split it in two is between the period of having Roy Hodgson in charge and then Oliver Glasner coming in. Like we started the season, we'd sold our best ever player in Wilfried Zaha. We knew Michael Olise was going to be injured for the first few months, and we didn't really bring anyone in to replace either of those players. So there was a feeling that essentially the owners had looked at the teams that got promoted, looked at the sort of standard of the league and said, well, we probably don't need to do anything really. We can probably survive with what we've got, which included keeping Roy Hodgson in charge. Which, to be fair, when you look at the table, how it ended up, how many points were actually needed to stay up in the end, they were pretty much bang on. But I think what the board potentially hadn't accounted for was that you need to give something for the fans to cling on to. And I would say there was a couple of games like Bournemouth at home, the Brighton away game, probably some of the most negative atmospheres I've ever felt at Palace games. And I think we're pretty good at, backing the team, backing the players when things are pretty bad. Most of us have been watching since we're in the Championship, so we haven't got high expectations, but it was really bad. So I think that kind of pushed forward the plans for Oliver Glasner, who I think was intended to come in the summer. That was brought forward. I think we also brought forward buying Adam Wharton. I think that was meant to be for the summer as well. And we also got Daniel Munoz in, who's our right wing back, who, both of those players went straight into the first team and were really key for the rest of the season. And then, Glasner just implemented a completely different style of play. And towards the end of the season, I think there was a lot of games that we were kind of, as fans, were watching in shock because of how good it was. Seeing us kind of like dominate possession, dominate teams in their own half is just something we're just not used to. So in the end, it turned out to be, some of the most fun I think we've had as Palace fans for quite a while. So I think giving the season a mark out of 10 is a tough one because it was so, was some of the lowest points I've ever had being a Palace fan and then some of the highest. So I'm going to go for a 7. Which probably doesn't really tell the story, but overall, you've got to I feel like you've got to judge things on how you ended up, and we finished 10th, and the cherry on top was we went above Brighton on the last game of the season, so can't really complain. And that obviously led into the summer and the Euros, and Gareth Southgate taking 4 Palace players, which was just incredible, really. I don't think many Palace fans had ever considered we would have any players going to major tournaments with England, so to have 4 was incredible. Obviously only 2 of them got on the pitch, but Mark Gay played a massive part and sort of, I think, just did exactly what we expected him to do, because he's just been rock solid since he came in for us. He's just the classiest of defenders, barely makes a mistake. That was really nice to see because I think he really did himself justice. And then Eze got a few minutes, which was nice. I think most Palace fans would tell you he's much better coming inside, playing in a number 10 position. So I think he was a bit wasted when he was put out on the wing, and even at time ended up being sort of a left wing back at the end of a couple of games. But that was just incredible to even have Palace players representing England, let alone getting on the pitch, and is a testament to some of the business we've done in the transfer market over the past few years, and Oliver Glasner really getting the best out of players like Adam Wharton, who I think has just been an absolute revelation and someone we can't wait to see more of this season. In terms of transfers this summer, I mean, most of the transfer talk is about players leaving, which again is good for the model the club are trying to work to, but is tough when you see players like Michael Olise leaving. It kind of reminds me of Gareth Bale leaving Spurs more than a few years ago now, but how they kind of went for the tactic of buying, I think it was 7 players to replace him. I think, you can't replace Michael Olise. So I think the club have gone for trying to sort of increase our options in that number 10 position rather than trying to find the next Michael Olise. We bought in Daichi Kamada, who's a Japanese player who played with Glasner at Frankfurt, who looks like a great fit, really intelligent player, can score with both feet. So he's one I think everyone is excited about, and it seems like he's going to go straight into the first team. We also got Ismail Sarr, who's one that Dougie Friedman, our director of football, has famously been trying to buy for about the past 10 years, it feels like. So it's good we finally got him in. We also bought Chadi Riyad in, who is a young centre-back who I think is going in as more of a squad player, but again, looks like a great pedigree. So the business we have done is good, but obviously we're constantly in fear of Mark Gay leaving, Eze leaving, and at the moment we're not getting linked to too many players. So I think there's a bit of a fear that this might be it for the transfer window, which I think would leave us light in a few positions, particularly at left wing back, right wing back. We don't really have a backup option. But going into the new season, I think there's a lot of optimism around the club, particularly with Oliver Glasner. I think, we haven't really had a manager with this kind of pedigree who's really been able to implement a style of play so quickly, and a style of play that's quite different to what we've had before. So I think there's a real excitement about what we can do with him in charge, and we're just hoping he does get backed in the last couple of weeks of the window. I think there's a hope that we can potentially push into the top half of the table, and of course, as every season, we would love a cup run. But I think the main thing, particularly taking into account some of the low points of last season, I think just actually looking forward to going to Crystal Palace games is something that we're really enjoying, and I think will carry on from the end of last season. Sort of actually looking forward to games where not only might we get results, we'll also play in a way that is enjoyable and is fun to watch and makes you feel like we're actually building something, which is a nice feeling as a Palace fan. In terms of the match on Sunday, I think the feeling probably for us is that it's coming a bit too soon, but probably that's the same for every club. Obviously, with a lot of our players going away with England, Munoz and Lerma going away for the Copa America, it feels like the season's come a bit too quickly, particularly with players like Czech Decore. It seems like he's not fully fit yet. And I think one of the big things that continued throughout the season was our weakness at set pieces. So I think coming up against Brentford, that's always going to be a fear in the back of our minds, that even if we do sort of play in the way we saw us playing at the end of last season, we're always susceptible to set pieces. And then in general play, we're not particularly quick at the back as well, so I think there's a bit of a fear of players like Mbeumo and Wissa running in behind. And going forward for us, I'm not sure if Jean-Philippe Mateta will be fit enough or ready to play. So our backup striker is Odsonne Edouard, who, although he's a lovely player, he just doesn't seem to be able to do it in front of goal. So I think he's likely to struggle against your centre-backs. So in terms of the match, I think it will be a tight one, as our games always tend to be. I think he might just have a bit too much for us. So my feeling is that it will be a 2-1 win to Brentford, but praying for a 2-1 Palace win. But either way, I think it will be a good game. I feel like these early season games are a bit more fun. People aren't kind of desperately clawing for points, so hopefully it will be a good game. And yeah, we wish you all the best for the rest of the season, apart from when you come to Selhurst Park.
So there you go, Lee from 5 Year Plan Podcast, giving a lowdown on Crystal Palace. And like I said to you, I'm starting to get a little bit excited now about this game. Like I said to you, season's starting, we start to talk about who's in and who's out, who can cause a little bit of excitement. We've still got all sorts of kind of muddiness in the defence, who's going to be playing where, who's going to be doing what. But it doesn't matter, because we're going Kevin Keegan styley. We'll score one more than you, or 5 more than you. I think it's Kevin Keegan styley is how we're looking at the moment now. I'm just going around the table here as well, just talking about the Palace game. Listen, we've talked loads and loads on this podcast, so I think you've got a good idea of kind of where Brentford is at. But just let's focus in on the Palace game. How do you think it's going to pan out as to who's just will be in the mixer and how we'll do?
Oh, I think the front line for me picks itself. It's Tony, Brian, probably Sharda, because that's uncertainty over Wissa. And I think the question is whether Carvalho starts, who he starts in place of, if he's on the bench. And then the defence, the defence could probably be anything, but I suspect it'll be at left back, Pinnock, Collins, Roerslev. And I think we'll win it. I think losing Elise is probably unbalanced them slightly. Eze is always a threat. They're a good team. It won't be easy. I think we win it. Absolutely. 2-1. Carvalho off the bench with a winner.
There we go. Carvalho said he's going to score, or he'd like to score, and he's done it just for Ali. The Holmes. Number 3 Holmes. Oh, actually, no, you're number 1 Holmes.
Number one Holmes. I was here first. I'm just really looking forward to Metallica before the game. I'm looking forward to a 4-3-3. I think it's going to be 3-1, and I think that Cavallo is going to score the icing on the cake with the third. I think / hope that they'll have Eze and Guehi a little bit tired from the Euros. Mateta played in the Olympics as well, so I'm hoping that Palace just aren't quite where they are with Elise gone as well. I'm hoping they're a little bit in flux, and I'm hoping that we finally right some wrongs and avenge a few of those tedious draws and that humping last season.
The Allards. Tony's in the mixer, isn't he?
Yeah, Tony will play. For this game, I'm just going to go with the law of averages. At some point, West Ham were going to beat us last season. At some point, we're not going to win away at Chelsea. At some point, we're going to beat Palace, and that will be on Sunday.
Laney.
I'll continue that, and at some point we're going to win away at Liverpool as well. So I'm going to go. We're going to beat Palace, and then we're going to beat Liverpool. So we're going to start the season 6 out of 6. My biggest concern, and I'll say it. You can boo me for saying it. Is I'm concerned about Flecken. I think Flecken does start, and I'm not going to pile in on him. But let's be honest. I think we are very, as Bill said, like the Newcastle analogy. I think we're very, very potentially potent up front. I just don't want to see it all undone by silliness at the back. I think if Flecken's dominant, I think if he's got his diving knees on, then he can do all right. I want him to succeed, but every time I think he's all right, he fluffs. So an error-free defence and a potent striking line, we get our 3 points. Thank you very much.
That's right. And for myself, I'm quite confident. I think that we've come through last season. The fact that we came through last season unscathed. I mean again. The injuries that we had, ridiculous amount of injuries, should have absolutely scuppered us. It should have done us, but we've come out of that unscathed. We're getting our players back from injury, but also we've got a good squad. We've signed a couple of good players. We signed some really good players. Okay, one of them's on the bench. It's on the treatment bench, actually. But we've got a couple of good players. So I think that, and getting the confidence back in the side and getting the positivity back in the side, I think that's a massive thing for us. So I think Palace are coming down. Great side. I mean, I think they've had a great World Cup. They had a better World Cup than we did, because they got more game time than they did. So they've got some great players there. But I think we're going to hold our own. I'm looking at a 2-0 win to the mighty Bees, and I'm, like I said, you're looking forward to it. And like I say, on Sunday, everyone get down there. Early start. We're going to be down. The Globe's open at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll be down there. We'll be actually out before that as well in the local area, because we want to soak up the sunshine. 24 degrees it is on Sunday. Get yourselves out here. Get yourselves in the vibe. Get yourselves in early. Get yourselves down the queue early on. Get yourselves down the Globe early on. Just get yourselves down there and get the vibe. And let's get that atmosphere going in the stadium, because listen, Palace ain't going to be liking that at all, are they?
No, they're not going to be liking it, and I'll say they don't like it up them, those Eagles.
That's right. And on that note, this is the Beesotted Pride.
Very long podcast.
This is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast. Thanks to everybody who has been listening to us over the years. I think we've gone 1,200 podcasts or something ridiculous on that one as well. Thanks to everybody who listened to me rambling on at the Euros. We did one podcast for every single Euros match. If you want to check that out, go back to prideofwest.london. You can check that out. The joys and the misery of the final game as well. But listen, we lasted a lot longer than everybody expected us to, so don't you worry about that. Now Brentford are going to last a lot longer in this Premier League than everyone has expected them to, because we are still here and we're here for another season. So listen, check us out Sunday. We're playing Crystal Palace. We're going down there. We're coming down the Globe. As we say, come on, you bees. Let's get them Eagles. Let's beat those Eagles.
They don't like it up them.
They don't like it at all.